Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
The meeting is ready to begin. Would you please have a seat? Okay. The chair has called the meeting to order and requested a call of the roll. Alderman Boyd?
Present.
Alderwoman Howard? Alderman Ornowitz?
Here.
Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard? Alderman Muhammad?
Present.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd?
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard?
Here.
Chairman Vaccaro?
Present.
Alderwoman Howard?
She's next door to another meeting. She'll be over.
Alderman T. Hubbard?
I believe she's probably across the hall, too.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 present. A quorum is present.
Okay, what we need to start off with is approval of the minutes from the January 15th meeting. If we've read them, I'd like to get a motion that we approve the minutes of the January 15th meeting.
It'll be the
All right,
December 3rd.
December 3rd meeting.
I move to approve minutes dated December 3rd, 2019. Second.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Ornowitz?
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad?
Aye.
Alderman Pam Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro?
Aye.
You have 6 aye votes.
We're going to start this morning with Board Bill 186. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, please present your bill. We do have the chief here if we believe we need comments. We may or may not, but Chief, you're welcome to come up. Okay, I will try to speak louder. So she's presenting on Board Bill 186, and she'll explain that now.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here for Board Bill 186. It authorizes and directs the Fire Commissioner on behalf of the Mayor of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency through the Missouri Department of Homeland Security. I'm here, I have Chief Jenkinson here to support this, and I'm asking for your favorable consideration.
Any questions from the committee? If you can go down the list there. We'll start with Vice Chairman Boyd. Any questions?
Good morning. Where's the Fusion Center?
Where?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Good morning. The Fusion Center is located in the St. Louis County Police Department Operational Center out in Chesterfield. They've been out there. They moved into that new quarters, I believe, about 4 years ago. They coordinate with St. Louis County Police, St. Louis City Police, the FBI, the Secret Service, and they provide intel to all the functioning law enforcement agencies in the area. What this does is provides a different set of eyes, a different first responder, if you will, to look at some of the threats that are coming in so that they can provide insight and provide information that will help eliminate these type threats.
Just for the record, we all know who you are. Can you just tell us who you are?
I'm Dennis Jenkinson, Fire Chief, City of St. Louis.
Okay, and Chief, why is this in the fire department's wheelhouse and not the police?
Okay, it is in the police department's wheelhouse. They have representatives on this committee as well. What this does, I have a fire captain that is assigned to Homeland Security issues and provides operational support to the police department and provides information to the fire department when we stand up for a large exercise. We have one coming up next week, which is the NHL All-Star Game, which we have to provide protection to based on threats that we are receiving. So we provide protection, chemical, biological, radiation support. We also provide first aid, medical support. So it just coordinates the equipment, and it coordinates the manpower, uses better use of these facilities, better use of the equipment that we have, and provides just a much better coordinated response.
But the fire department is actually responsible for the grant, administering the grant.
Yes, it's $120,000 over a 15-month period that provides for the salary of one captain being assigned to that position. He still maintains his position within the fire department and maintains all of his duties within the fire department.
So how much time will he spend on this program? Or she?
He's probably assigned out there 50, maybe 60% of the time. He's writing the plan right now for the NHL All-Star game for us. So
Does this open an opportunity for an additional position rather than have someone split duties?
no, it does not provide another position within the fire department. He just shares duties and provides insight to the Fusion Center.
What does the police chief think about this?
Well, the police department, I won't speak for the police chief, but he has a representative on the STARS committee that oversaw the writing of this grant, so they were well aware of it.
Is he a captain too?
I think it's Colonel Larry O'Toole.
Oh, okay. Thank you, chief. Appreciate it.
She's not here. Alderman Ordowitz?
No question.
Alderman Muhammad?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd? She might have stepped out. Alderman Clark Hubbard, you're up there. I have no questions. I would actually, Alderwoman Boyd, do you have questions of the chief on this grant? No, I'm fine. So I would entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 186 out with a due pass recommendation.
So move.
Second? Okay, cool. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Ordowitz?
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard? Chairman Vaccaro?
Aye.
There are 6 aye votes.
And
Chief, thank you. Oh,
Mr. Clerk, could you add my name as a
yeah,
co-sponsor?
anyone else? You can add mine. Anyone else wants to be a co-
My name is on there, right?
So if you would, please add mine and Pam Boyd. And, so, Chief, thank you for coming. You're all done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go next to, rather than tie the police department up, we're going to go to Alderman John Muhammad, Board Bill 107, Committee Substitute. John, would you please, Alderman Muhammad, would you please present on, so just calling you John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Safety Committee. Before you is Board Bill 107, Committee Substitute. As you all recall, we did previously pass perfected Board Bill 107 in a full session of the Board of Aldermen. I graciously asked that Board Bill 107 be sent back to committee to introduce a committee substitute, and that's what you have before you. The original Board Bill.
So I believe that we'll have to make a motion to put Board Bill
Yeah.
107 Committee Sub in front of us.
Right.
So
Getting
I'd
ready
like
to.
to make that motion that we put Board Bill Committee 107 Committee Substitute in front of us.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Committee Substitute 107 is now in front of us. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Continuing from where I left off, the original Board Bill 107 that we perfected, it established 9 policing districts or patrol districts in the city of St. Louis under the Bureau of Community Policing. And I presented that Board Bill due to the insufficient leadership of our Chief of Police and, or respectfully, our Police Commissioner. We do not have a public safety plan in the city of St. Louis, and we do not have a plan to actually reorganize our police department. Everyone has acknowledged that we have a problem in the infrastructural management of our police department, from our mayor to our public safety director to our commissioner of police. Yet, after 2 years, no change has been made. So I introduced Board Bill 107. And I did not hear any objection to Board Bill 107, nor did anyone from the Office of Public Safety or the Division of Police reached out to me and voiced a opposition in regards to the bill. So we have to do something right now to fix our police department. And The committee substitute to Board Bill 107 goes a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more deeper in regards to the chain of command in our police department. This board bill puts more officers on the streets. We all know our police department is too top-heavy. We have too many white shirts who do absolutely nothing, who sit in offices behind desks. All of our captains that represent our respective wards have told us in some form or fashion that they need more resources and more officers on the street. And this is exactly what Board Bill 107 does in more than 3 different ways. Most notably, it puts the traffic bureau inside the districts. So the traffic bureau that patrol our various streets, whether it's Natural Bridge or Gravois or Hampton or any other major urban residential street or urban road, they will actually be staffed in the district, in a district headquarters, making it a little bit more accessible and not centralized as it is right now. This also puts the airport police under the police department for several reasons. It creates transparency, it creates accountability, and we don't need to have 2 different police departments in the city of St. Louis. That goes against city charter, as it states we can only have 1 police department in the city of St. Louis if we were to gain local control, which we did in 2012, and no one has talked about the fact that we still have 2 police departments. So this puts the airport police under the police department, respectfully. There is not a change in pay or a change in salary. There is a change in rank. The chief of police currently over the airport will be a lieutenant colonel. Board Bill 107 also organizes the different bureaus in a police department. It makes it more modern and it makes it more efficient. Most notably, the biggest change is combining 2 bureaus that we have right now. The Bureau of Auxiliary Services and the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement. It combined those 2 bureaus. And of course, Board Bill 107 takes away the major position and a major rank. Right now, we have 3 majors in our department. And this just adds to the continuous top-heaviness that we continuously see going on in our police department. So Board Bill 107 encompasses a lot of different factors. It does change this police department entirely. And the police commissioner did not change the department as he said he would when he was pleading to be the commissioner of police. I respect our commissioner very much. However, his failure to act cannot be our failure to legislate and create effective policy. And that's what we're doing right now. I heard that he had a meeting this morning with his captains. And in that meeting, and he can address this when he comes up, I heard that he said if this board bill passes, whether it was 9 districts or 7, he would not enforce it, as if he does not report to this body. That's problematic for me. The police department reports to the Board of Aldermen. The police department reports to the Department of Public Safety, which reports to the Board of Aldermen. We maintain and have legislative oversight over the department. So it was very disturbing to hear that come from our police commissioner. Again, I have a lot of respect for our commissioner, but this change is necessary. We cannot wait. We need to make sure we fix the systematic troubles that exist in our police department, and that starts with reallocating the resources that currently exist. That's exactly what Board Bill 107 does. I have no further comments, Mr. Chair. I can entertain questions if there are any.
I'm going to make a couple comments, and then we are going to go down the list. First off, I agree that we are top-heavy. At the last Board of Alderman meeting, when we were going to go to 9 districts, that's part of what everybody discussed was how many majors. I contend, and I have the budget, and I brought copies if anybody wants to see it. In 2013, the major positions were 1, and it paid $84,000. In 2019-20 budget, there is 5 majors, and I have both budgets in front of us, and it's over $500,000, plus the staff that works with a major. We need to concentrate more on how we better deal with the resources that we have, how we get civilian employees whether it be in the police department, paramedics, dispatchers. We're 27 dispatchers down. We need to be talking about how we're going to get these people paid. How are we going to do better with the resources that we have in the department? This bill does not fire anybody. It does it through attrition. As a major retires, he doesn't get replaced. It doesn't eliminate the lieutenant colonels. We've been sued over moves that we've made in the city where we took a captain and basically jumped him over a major, made him a lieutenant colonel. We got sued and we lost. The game's got to play, guys. They got to end. All these games have to end. I'm anxious to have the chief come up here and the mayor's chief of staff to tell me everything's wonderful. Everything's great. It isn't. Crime has been driven into my neighborhood. People being held up at gunpoint at Target. Huck's, the little department store, being held up at gunpoint last week. 7-Eleven being held up at gunpoint. Don't come up here and embarrass yourself or me by telling me crime is down in the city, that this triangle helped in one area. We've shoved crime around. It is up to us. And if what Alderman Muhammad is saying is true, that you held a private meeting saying you were going to woefully disregard an ordinance that this body makes, we'll take other action. I am really upset over that. But we'll give you a chance to come up and talk in the mayor's office. But if anybody in this group can come up here and tell me that what we're doing is good and right and things are better, I'm hoping that somebody sees this on TV, because I can tell you, my neighborhood, crime is going out of control. People are leaving the neighborhood because of it. North St. Louis has the biggest population loss in the city, and this next census, you're going to see that. We need to fix these problems. Pam Boyd has asked let's say Alderwoman Pam Boyd has asked over and over of the chief, please send me 6 more police. Oh, we'll get on it. She's asked Jimmy Edwards, please, I need this for my ward. I need it for protection. I need to take care of my neighborhood. We've driven crime into her neighborhood, yet none of this happens because the office of the chief of police, and as far as I'm concerned, in this case, and the mayor's chief of staff can come up and explain this, but has felt that the Board of Aldermen has no authority to do anything. And we're going to prove that we do. We have the authority. We have the people in the neighborhood that listen to us. This committee substitute was put together listening to guys that work the street in blue shirts. We sat down with the Police Officers Association with some of the members, and this was coming from the people on the streets. I'm pretty sure if you tell captains that when we get rid of a lieutenant colonel, if we have such a shortage, I'm going to get to my last thing and then I'm going to just shut up and pass this on. But when you got good guys that I've been to that turned 65 that could actually do another year in perfect health, and we're saying we don't have the people to do the job, yet we make people retire. And I go to the retirement last call, and the chief and everybody says, oh, you're great and wonderful. Hate to lose you. You're 65. Get out of here. I'm upset. And we need to find out the real applications for how many people are applying and being denied to become police, firefighters, refuge workers, street department workers, and we're going to do that next. I'm going to pass this along because I am just, and the people in my neighborhood are just tired of the crime, and nothing's working. We believe this is a good move, and I do, and I will stand behind this. I'm sorry, Alderman Jeffrey Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Muhammad, is there a committee substitute that shows the changes?
Like a line by line?
Yeah, I'm just trying to compare what we're doing now compared to the previous one, or are we just...
No, are you talking about a marked copy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know what we're changing.
We're changing, if you look at the previous Board Bill 107, it only dictates the changes of patrol districts.
Right.
the committee substitute predicts the changes of the entire police department in command bureaus and divisions under the police department, and it eliminates the major position from the police department. Those are the biggest changes with the committee substitute.
Yeah, because in my head, I thought it was only a couple pages, the original one.
The original bill, yes, it was a couple pages. This one's a little bit longer.
So I am totally in favor of redistricting from 6 to more than 6. From a policy standpoint, I'm just a little concerned about over-legislating departments. I've heard a lot of feedback about the police department and how we have too many white shirts and so on and so forth. I would think that responsibility should lay at the feet of the mayor at the end of the day. The public safety director at the end of the day should, reorganize. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a demonstration of a willingness to make a shift and reorganizing the department in a way that the public would feel safer. So I'm in support of the bill, but I am concerned about legislating in a way that it ties the hands of departments. Because down the road, what will happen if we realize that we need more majors or more whatever, then we'd have to come back and amend an ordinance rather than allowing a policy change at the public safety level. So I just want to offer that commentary about moving in a direction when we start doing legislation like this, how it can potentially have unintended consequences and interrupt the system. So, thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Vice Chairman. And, in 2018, just 2 years ago, you were the co-sponsor of a board bill. That board bill skips my mind, but that the ordinance number is Ordinance 70755, which directed the Director of Public Safety to submit to this committee a quarterly plan on crime prevention and also the changes in the police department. And that was due October 31st, 2019, and it never came. You were one of those co-sponsors. And even with the board bill I brought up last year in regards to changing the police districts, and as relates to this board bill, you were supportive of. And we have gave the police department and the Department of Public Safety time and time again. We gave them numerous opportunities to come back and actually present to the Board of Aldermen, present to this committee on their plan moving forward. And every time they come, they ask for more time, and they failed to do it. So I think in some cases, where you're right, we could be over-legislating, but I think it is our responsibility to effectively legislate, and sometimes that may include excessive legislation. But again, their failure to act cannot be our failure to legislate. I do agree with you, but this change is necessary, and I believe it has to happen.
Well, again, that's why I made the statement that there certainly has not been a demonstration of willingness to move in the direction that the Board of Aldermen has been asking. And I just wanted for the record to say that this is not normal for me. This is not good policy for me. But I support the will of the majority of the members of the Board of Aldermen because I know it's been a trying issue to deal with. So I just wanted to make those comments for the record, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
And just for the record, I did send a letter to the police department asking for that report that was supposed to be due back in October. We didn't get anything. I sent another one yesterday, again, asking for that report that is due to us that we asked for. And again, we don't have, I will pull that up, I will show the chief the letter, and he could say, I don't know. But I can tell you that Teresa has sent that, and I have it on my phone where we resent it. Just so you know. Alderman Arnowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd have to order lunch out. Alderman Muhammad, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Alderman.
So if I'm reading the committee substitute right, so I guess the intent is from the original 9 districts, looking like 7 districts, and I guess that would be the entertainment district that would be patrolled. So that's a good, and hopefully that's feasible. You know, I think, you know, when you say putting the airport police under the city police department, I think that was tried a few years back, and there was some legal snafu on that, because I'd have to refer to Julian Boyd, but I know that was tried to put the airport police under the police department, and there was some legal things that just couldn't be done. So I don't know if it can be legally done yet or not. And, you know, I mean, nobody doubts unless you turn a blind eye. We have a lot of crime in St. Louis, homicides and everything else. You know, what is the answer? I mean, I can say this. I believe the police academy is approximately 6 months nowadays. And, you know, you have to figure in, you have policemen with, and the academy class, if you get 30 is a lot. So it ranges from probably 22 to 30. But you have to look at it this way, in that 6 months, how many actual officers do you lose in that 6 months through retirement, going to higher paying jobs and everything else? So, you know, there's no doubt that we're short, and I think unless we do something different on that end, we'll never catch up. I'm not saying that I disagree that we're top heavy. I think it could be reorganized a little bit better. I remember years ago at one time there was no major positions, and then they were created. But so I don't know. I'm willing to do anything that's going to help the police department and the citizens in the city of St. Louis. But let me tell you something. There's a myth of a lot of negativity out there about policemen. So, you know, that they're doing this and they're doing that. All I would ask is all elected officials who believe that, go ride in your district and see what goes on. I mean, I can say I've ridden in every district in this city of St. Louis, from south to north. And I've seen a lot of different things. And the biggest part is, what I realize is, in the African American community, the elderly people are scared to speak up because of retaliation. But so, no, I think you should really ride if you're an elected official, and see what goes on in neighborhoods. I mean, it's different every time. I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to ride. But I'm willing to make some changes in the police department with cooperation. And I think that's what we all want, to have a more efficient police department. But, you know, we could put a policeman on every corner. Do we know what time a rolling gun battle is going to go through? We could probably hire 500 more policemen. We're going to not stop shootings. I mean, you know what causes it? I know poverty is a cause of crime, but we have to get to the younger kids. What's causing them to pick a gun up and go kill each other? So I'm willing to help them do whatever I can, and I appreciate your bill.
Thank you, Alderman. And also, I want to touch briefly on the legality of bringing the airport police under the police department. The majority of our statutes gives us that authority in section chapter 544 where it says, and I will not read the chapter in its entirety based on time, but I will read the section that is prevalent to the conversation. Peace officers of a municipality shall have arrest powers as described in this section upon lands which are leased or owned by the municipality in an unincorporated area. Ordinance created by municipality, owning or leasing land outside its boundaries may be enforced by peace officers of the municipality upon such owned or leased land. The powers of arrest authorized by this section is in addition to all other powers conferred upon law enforcement officers and shall not be constructed as to limit or restrict any other power of a law enforcement officer. That Missouri revised statute does give the city of St. Louis the power to
And when was that statute enacted?
This statute was enacted in effective August the 28th of 2014.
Okay. I mean, I would just suggest that maybe, get in touch with somebody in the law department and see what was the stumbling point that couldn't be done, because it does state we are supposed to be one police department. I know that. So that's all I have to say. I mean, if we can get it done, that's fine. But I would just double check and see what the reasoning was it couldn't be done.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then if maybe we have to change something, we can possibly do that. All right, thank you again.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, and I two things. One, that it was actually sent to Jimmy Edwards, not the police chief, the asking for the report. Under ordinance 70755, the reports should have been given to us. They have not been given to us. And that's disappointing, but I will apologize, Chief. You did not. I would hope that Jimmy Edwards would share with you, but they were sent to Jimmy Edwards and Alderman Ornowitz. I'm going to bring up Shane Duker, because my understanding on the not now, but eventually, that they went up to Jeff City and corrected in Jeff City the problem. And since I won't be able to explain it, she should be able to, I hope. Thank you. And Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I've been sitting over here praying that I don't go on a rant about about all of this stuff that's going on. I mean, it's very disheartening. But can you go back to the statement that you made regarding the chief saying, if in fact this goes through our process, that he still won't enforce it? When was that said? And I definitely would like to have him come up and explain if he said that statement and why, because if he did say it, I have a problem with it.
Apparently it was said today during reporting time on Comcast with top. What? It was said this morning in Comcast during report time this morning to top command staff in the police department, to captains. I was told this by two reliable sources, and for the sake of their jobs, I'm not going to mention their names, but it's two reliable sources, and the wording was exact verbatim. So that leads me to believe that it's true. I pray that it's not. Most likely, probably so. I don't think that these two people have any reason to lie to me, but he said in context, if this passes, and it looks like it's going to pass, I'm not going to enforce it. They cannot do anything to me, as if he has no boss to report to.
Okay,
and he can address that more appropriately and more adequately when he comes up.
Okay, thank you. I hope that wasn't said, but if in fact it was said, then I definitely would have a problem with that. I think we all have always gone above and beyond to support our police officers. I mean, whether it was Prop P or whatever, I know I have, because I come from a law enforcement background and I understand the importance of the job that you all do. But I guess I just have a problem with how everything is playing out. I mean, to the world right now, St. Louis City is just looking like a mess. You got police officers into it with the prosecutor. The Board of Alderman can't get data, can't get information. You got this whole narrative about residency, which we still have yet to see data to support that's definitely a reason why we're down officers. There's just so much going on across the board, and it's my hope that we can all start working together and get something done because our crime is through the roof. We know that the way these districts are, that doesn't work, period. We know that, and so it's something that needs to be changed, and I talk to officers. I have a lot of police officer friends. I hear the meat and bones of what's going on when they're out there in those patrol cars, and they have to navigate all across the city just to try to do something. Me being an auto person, when I call the police, it's not timely that they get there, and they know why I'm calling. So it's an issue, and it's definitely one that we need to address. But I will say this, nobody on this committee is trying to micromanage the police department. We don't possess the skill set to do that, but you can't blatantly disrespect this body or this board and say what you are gonna do and what you're not gonna do. That's not how that works. And as a leader, if in fact that type of stuff is being said or is being done, it's really not wise because we're the people that's chopping up your budget. You know, we see all the overtime. We see the cops sitting in cars doing nothing. I see them every day in my neighborhood, and I have an open air drug market. So whereas we're going to go above and beyond to do what's in the best interest of our constituents and the city to make sure that we are making people safe, you cannot blatantly disrespect leadership. You cannot say what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. You cannot sit on your hands when we've been asking you to do something, everybody to do something for months. For years now. I mean, when you know something doesn't work, you may not want to deal with it right now, but you have to because the public requires that you do. And when you don't do what you should do, then those bullets may fly through your front window at your home. So I just hope that we can first raise the level of respect, do a better job at communicating. It's horrible when we request information and can't get it. I mean, we're not in a dinosaur age anymore. You can compile data in a nanosecond. So I just hope that we do a better job. If it makes sense to me, I don't care what it is. I have no allegiance to any particular body. If it makes sense to me, I'm going to support it. If it's legal, I'm going to support it. So I just hope that we all can get on the same page because we got babies dying everywhere, and this political game that people play, it doesn't benefit anyone. And that's all the comments I have regarding the 107.
Thank you. And no, let's don't do that. I prefer we don't. Also keep in mind, after we pass this, which I hope we do, it gives them 180 days that they start showing us, and we could always extend things as long as they show us that they're, I don't think we inspect the majors all quit tomorrow, but as they quit, because every major, and when the chief comes up, I got the budget stuff in front of everybody. It's over $500,000, and then every major has a staff. Since we can't get people to apply, any business-minded person would
Mr.
not
Chair,
take more management.
talk directly in your mic. I think people are having troubles
I'm
hearing
sorry.
you.
We're giving them 180 days to start these changes. We can always keep moving down the road, but every time we've asked, and I do know Alderman Muhammad tried to meet with the chief, and he said more time, nothing went on. The only time we caught their attention was when the full board of aldermen last week said, voted, in fact, not late, but right before we went on break, they voted, they wanted to go to 9 districts. We listened, we said, well, we're going to give you time to respond. We sat back. The only ones that responded were not the mayor's office, was not the chief of police, was not Jimmy Edwards. The police association and the guys on the street started calling us saying that we're too top heavy. Not any one group, but the groups I did not hear from were the leadership group that's here today. And the only reason we got their attention is because last meeting, we were ready to move forward. We listened to what the guys on the street had to say. They said 9 districts, that's probably not doable. So we said 7, but how would you structure those 7? The guys on the street gave us a good idea. Maybe the chief should listen to the guys on the street, and maybe we can they can come up with what they need to do. And the major positions, again, that's why I gave my the budget thing. When in 2013, under state control, we had 1 major. Now we have 5. And then I keep going on. So we'll go Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. The one thing, let me be real clear. I support the police 100%. I do not support he say, she say. I don't get into the middle of that muddy situation. But I'm trying to figure out, and I support this bill, but the challenge that I'm having, if we're already almost 200 policemen short, how are we going to get police for those smaller districts? Where are those police coming from? And then how many classes? We just have classes for the police, you know, them graduating. So how many classes are coming out? Do we have?
Thank you, Alderman. First, I want to address in regards to staffing. So this actually makes it easier for patrol divisions because this makes the districts smaller. Right now, me and you, we are in the 6th district under the great leadership of Commander Johnson. He does a fantastic job. But the district is too large. It's stretching from the Chain of Rocks Bridge, going to somewhat downtown, going to the west side, then going back into North City. The districts are just too large where he cannot staff. He can't patrol effectively. So adding another district, it makes the district smaller, and we align the districts where you put the neighborhoods primarily in one patrol district. So right now, neighborhoods could sit in one district and another district and another district. Under this proposed plan, if you look at Exhibit B under the district maps, all the neighborhoods are inside one district, which would allow the police to be more familiar with that area, which will increase police response time, and which will also increase police presence because it's smaller.
Okay, so this is my
and it
question.
also,
Wait a minute, stop, John. This is my question. They're already, 6th district is lucky if they have a full shift. So that's my first thing. So my second thing is, when they did all this, they automatically pulled 18 to 36 cars from each district because they were trying to streamline the police department. We're down 150-something police, and so my concern is, I understand 6th district is very large because I'm a part of it. And so when you have police that are doing favors and setting shell cars in front of properties that are vacant, and I got drugs all around that area, I got a problem with that because that car can be used to patrol. So now you have taken a car out of my district and sit it at a spot, and apparently they think the dope deal is dumb because they don't know there's nobody in the car. So now we got two issues. One, the car can get set on fire, so that's going to be detrimental to the people around it. Or two, they'll vandalize the car because they know nobody's there. So if you're saying they'll have more police, where are they coming from? Because apparently they think the shell car is going to solve that problem, and it's not going to solve a problem. And so the issue that I have is I'm in a triangle, and I've got bodies dropping, but I'm told it's poor and it's drug infested, so they can't fix it. So I don't see how Lauren dividing the 6th district is going to help me because it's not helping me now. The person I have leading 6th district now is not doing anything. So how is that going to make a difference? And so I keep hearing everybody say the residents don't care for the police. My residents don't have a problem with the police. They just don't see them. So if you don't see them, how you going to prevent the crimes? We had a drive-by shooting with the yellow school bus, but we told the captain a month prior about the drug problems on that block, but nothing happened. So that's the issue that I'm having. I think it's not about how many police, it's how you managing the people you have. And so coming from management, if you got 40 jobs and you got 30 police, you need to divide that as much as possible so you can take care of that community. And so, as Tamika Hubbard said, she got a open drug area. I do too. And it was told that they would start patrolling and be more visible in that area. But when I go over there today, they're approaching people's cars doing the drug buy. So who does that? So when do we stop making excuses and hold them accountable and tell the police, do your damn job? That's all I want you to do. Just do your job. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. Yeah, we do need to cut it down. But where are we getting the police at? We don't have no freaking police. And then the other thing, will the airport police get an increase in pay if they're put in with the police department?
Thank you, Alderman.
I was going to bring Jane Duker up to explain how that part. And I did want to answer, it actually puts more police on the street in areas where they need to be.
Talking to your mic, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I am going to have Jane Duker come up more toward the end to explain this. But if you look at the map of what we're proposing, it will actually put more police in areas like yours where they're needed. It's done by not calls for service, how they did it before, but the type of calls for service. Like, it doesn't do a lot to my area because a lot of the calls for service aren't necessarily people getting shot, although we're getting there. But we took the types, and you'd have to read through this other stuff. We'll bring up people to explain it. But this is more the calls, the type of service. In my neighborhood, I probably have just as many calls for service as you do, but mine might be because the neighbor's loud. It might be because they saw somebody. It might be just that the police are doing just checks of things, you know. In your neighborhood might be more crime activity that they really need to. So these districts were not just something we drew on a piece of paper. This was done talking to officers, working with the association, and this was drawn based off the type of crime.
But Joe, no offense to you, in your community,
right,
you see the police.
No, we don't.
Trust
no, we
me.
don't.
You see them more than in my community, because you know what I see them in my community, riding up and down West Florissant. They go down no side streets. And like I said, you got a car sitting there, but nobody's going to those side streets, so nobody sees them.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I won't, and it's not any, you don't see them in our neighborhood. They took the 2nd District. It has the same amount of police as other districts. They did it by crime calls. They took Forest Park and put it in there. The Rajamans saw on Pernod a home being broke into. Called 911, which happens to be 27 people down, and that's why you get put on hold. By the time the police were able to get there, which took about 10, 15 minutes, to come from areas where there's more crime, because they just took these and said, we're just going to throw all these calls together. The house was burglarized and they left. No, my neighborhood does not see police. That's why people are being held up by gunpoint at Target. That's why Hucks, that's why, I can go down the list of all the places in my neighborhood, because it's a safe neighborhood to rob. And if you ask me, the way they've structured the police department has made my neighborhood a safe place. I believe when they're doing these triangles, and the chief says, well, you know, murders were down in my triangle, even though they're up in the city. They shove crime into neighborhoods where there were not crime. What this does, it takes the specific types of calls. And believe me, I would like to see more police in my area, and this addresses more police in all the areas. We asked traffic to be put in each area, which would add 4 cars or 4 people to the area. But the people in my neighborhood, we never see police. Car break-ins have gone rampant in my neighborhood. Home break-ins have gone rampant. You know what happens when a car or home gets break into my neighborhood?
Mr. Chair, if I can just digress.
Let me just finish this real quick, though. They don't come. The police don't come. They call on the phone. They say, did you see the person that burglarized your house? Well, no. Well, we'll have someone call you and do a report later. No, police are not in my neighborhood. People might believe that. You're welcome to come over. They put the shell cars out. I've had my argument with the chief. I've said, why don't you put the shell cars out, but then man them off and on, so nobody would know whether or not, and use your people more efficiently. Yet, nothing. No, they do. They'll put the shell car out, people get used to it, and they will vandalize the shell car, and we look like a bunch of morons. They need to start listening. We're out there. They're not even listening to their officers. If they were listening to their officers on the street, these changes would not be having to be made here. But the officers on the street are telling us, and I'll go on a rant, I'm sorry, but they're telling us the same thing we're saying. They want to, but they can't get their own people to listen. I'm sorry, John.
No, it's fine, Mr. Chair. I just want to stick to the facts what we have. So we do have reports that's being printed right now by the staff, and you're going to see it. But we have report calls, and we also have the call logs. Under District 6, the calls that we have right now is at 62,000. If we reorganize this department as it relates into Board Bill 107, this committee substitute, our call volume will drop to 43,000. Right now, District 6 has 7,219 reports. Under this board bill, and this is done by the Planning and Urban Design Agency, those reports will decrease to just a little over 5,000. So there's a decrease in reports and calls that could happen under this reorganization of the police department and the expansion of another district. Now, this reallocates the resources that we have to make it more efficient. And we keep talking about not having enough officers. I get that, but if we reorganize this department efficiently, then we can actually stop crime and we can have a large police presence. Again, one of the worst things, the reason why we don't have police presence now is Police Chief Sam Dotson reorganized the department in 2013, where we have 6 districts instead of 9. When we had those 6 districts, those 9 districts, you've seen the police. So, and I know you served as committee woman when we had 9 police districts. And I know you had a personal relationship with your captain, with your major. At the time, it was Major Hayden or Commissioner Hayden. So we know that when we changed the districts, we did not do this effectively to where we actually address the type of crimes that exist in neighborhoods. So what this does is reorganizes that, and we know that we don't have enough officers, or we don't have enough police staff, because we're down dispatchers too. We're also down firemen and EMS. So we know we don't have enough law enforcement and public safety staff or first responders. We don't have enough first responders. That's why instead of doing the original 9 districts that I proposed in the original board bill, we cut it down to 7 as best as we could based on calls, based on population, and also based on types of crimes that exist in neighborhoods from north to south. So what this does, it reallocates the resources, and it makes it more efficient for the police to respond to incidents. And again, the decrease in calls that we'll see just in our district is 20,000 calls.
And I didn't say it's not that I don't support it.
No, yes, ma'am.
I'm just frustrated because I'm looking at, if we don't have enough police in 6 districts now, us splitting in half, how's that going? That's all I'm saying. How's that going to increase the police presence? Because we don't have enough police now. When I have people call me and they call the police, and then the police dispatcher said they only have 1 car, that's a crime. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a crime in my community. And so that's my argument. Don't keep playing with my residents and acting like what they're asking for is not important. It is important, and I fight every day for it. And as far as talking to Chief, I've been meeting with the Chief ever since he's been the Chief. And so it hasn't changed. It hasn't improved. We don't see the policemen, and I don't believe in my residents suffering because they can't get it together. And that's the problem that I have. And like I said, I support this. I don't dissupport it, but I'm just scared we're going to be in a bigger jam than we were because we don't have the police now. That's my only concern.
Absolutely, Alderwoman, and just to, it makes the district smaller.
I get that.
It makes it smaller.
I
So
get that.
the little police that we have trying to patrol one geographical district that is so large is impossible. By making it smaller, This district that was focused on 13 wards can now, I'm being facetious when I say 13, but this district that's focused on 6 wards can now focus on 4, can now focus on 3. It makes it smaller so we can see. And the extra district that it adds is the 7th district. Again, these reports are coming over now, but it will add the 7th district, right? And under the 7th district, the proposed call volume based off data. You know, the data that we've been waiting for from the police department that we never get, I got, and it took about 2 hours to obtain. So the data that the chief said that we need to reorganize the department, that we don't have, that he needs 6 months for, I got in under 6 hours. And this data that I'm sharing with you, and of course the chief already has it, but I'll make sure he has a copy of what I have as well. Under the 7th district, there will be 52,000 calls, and that's synonymous with the other districts that we currently have that we're reformatting. Again, under the 6th district, 43,000. Under the 5th district, 48,000. Under the 4th district, 64,000. And under the 3rd district, 60,000. And under the 2nd district, 69,000. All this is doing is trying to reallocate the police resources that we currently have, again, to make it efficient. You know, in one of the neighborhoods you represent, Walnut Park East, you had 642 crimes in 2019. Again, this is the data that we've been waiting for from our public safety department and our police department. You have 642 crimes. In the Patch neighborhood, that was 373 crimes. In Carondelet, in the 12th ward, there were 1,591 crimes. In Wells Goodfellow, there was 1,187 crimes. And in one of the wards that I represent, O'Fallon, there was 700 crimes. So we can see that there's a problem with crime, clearly. But we don't have a plan to fight it. We don't have a plan to improve public safety. So Board Bill 107 creates that plan under a reorganization of the police department. So we're taking top command staff away that we don't need, that's excessive bureaucracy. We're taking it away and we're putting it in the districts that's responsible for patrolling our communities. Again, one of them is the traffic bureau. Now, I know the traffic bureau works. I've been stopped a few times. So I know it works, right? It works. They're nice officers too. They're really nice. One of them put the lights on for me. That was the first time I experienced that one. So they're nice. They are nice officers, Chief. So we know that the traffic bureau works, and it can be more productive if it worked directly out of the districts that serve our respective neighborhoods. So adding a traffic bureau inside the districts will increase a foot patrol or a traffic patrol of almost 6 officers in our districts, which would increase police presence. So this is reallocating the police resources. And again, all these studies were done by the Department of Planning and Urban Design. I'm no expert in police, so we did have outside help and experts who have an emphasis in police and public safety to help us draft this board bill and also come up with the best practices and techniques to figure out how to get this done. And this is exactly what it does. If we don't have a clerk right now. This here is the call reports that I was just briefly talking about. I think. Yes. That's the call reports that I was briefly talking about, how we can see the decrease in the call numbers and also the reporting as well.
And John, thank you. And I'm just going to add, and I know I keep interrupting, but we were told months ago that they're going to have to get computers and everything to get us this information, yet we were able to obtain this within about a 4-hour period of time. So, once again, I feel we were not being told not being told truthfulness. Alderman Boyd, are you done?
That's it, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Muhammad.
So, last but not least, Alderwoman
I'm always last.
Clark Hubbard.
I'm always last, so I'm always like, I'm echoing my sentiments of my colleagues. Da, 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 da. But anyway, yeah. So thank you, John, for the continued due diligence you've been doing with this board bill. And I don't have any questions for you because I'm eager to hear from the speakers on how we can make this make sense. Because God forbid for me that we pass this out, and for the community out here in the community that pays attention, that it's a feel-good moment and we feel like this passes and now crime will go down and the rainbows will come out and things like that. So I'm interested in hearing from the speakers and let them explain how we can make this make sense, because the overwhelming outcry from the community is that we need a change in how it's ran across the board and how our communities are policed across the board. I don't want to brag, it's not bragging, but I will be public about my relationship with the police in the community that I serve in, not just in this capacity as Alderwoman, but prior to that, is that I engage and they have always engaged. So with that being said, I don't have some of the same, I guess, relationship challenges that people might have with the police. And it also echoes out to other people in my in the 26th Ward that want me to make sure that they voice their position on it. They want to support the police. They want to see a change, but they want to support it and they want to see it done right and cohesively across the board, not just with them and us, but with the other branches of law enforcement in the city of St. Louis. Because again, it's not going to work if one part of the body is not working in that body. So I'm interested again in hearing from the speakers that are here today to see how this is going to roll out. And John, again, I appreciate you being on the ground with this continuously, with making sure you try to make this better for the entire city of St. Louis, addressing the disparity in the communities in the city of St. Louis, and knowing that policing is different in the different communities in the city of St. Louis. So with that being said, I'm interested, again, not in plugging you for any more information, but hearing from the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
And I would also, just as a reminder, this will put their feet to the fire, because this gives them 180 days to start moving that direction. What I'd like to do is bring up the chief of staff. He asked if he could speak first from the mayor's office. After that, I will have the chief come up and speak. And then after that, I will ask Jane Duker to come up and speak. So is the mayor's chief of staff, Conway, here still?
Mr. Conway has departed for Jefferson City.
For where?
For Jefferson City, the state of the state.
Okay. So then, Chief, it's your show. And I will ask the very first question, and that is, and I would ask you to be truthful because I will research it and go farther if necessary. Did you tell any of your command staff that don't worry, even if this passes, and most likely it will, that you're not going to implement this?
I did not.
So if we bring in, because we could subpoena.
I would want you to bring them in.
Okay. So you're telling me?
I'm telling you unequivocally, I've met, well, first of all, there's people who are here that can attest to the fact that I've been sitting at my desk since 7 o'clock this morning. Likewise, yesterday, before I went to Jeff City. So I'm saying, the Alderman made reference to a meeting that is in Comstat. Comstat's on Thursdays, that's tomorrow. But I have met with none of my captains. In fact, I've met with very few.
Well, I mean, just so you know.
So it's not true, sir.
A couple of captains.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Okay, and I'll take your word. A couple of captains have also told me exactly the same thing. So that's
Okay, well, let me start this off by saying this. Most of you, and not every single one, most of you knew me before I was chief. I think that I've always been very respectful to you, always talk to you. I mean, I think you asked me questions about what's going on in your district for those that I actually serve. I can't remember if Alderwoman Hubbard, if I actually was a major when she was still, when she first got elected. But the point is that I think that everything that people have asked me to give them, if they ask me for something, you know, that I've given it to them best I can. I know that there's sometimes things that you're asking for some of your districts that I actually can't provide. Like you might say, hey, I really need this drug house to be closed in a certain period of time. I mean, we can put all of our efforts toward that. But I think that I've whenever all you have called, I've come to your meetings on your request. I just think that I guess I'm not insulted. I guess I'm saying, hey, I would hope that people would take into consideration my respect that I've had for you in my contacts with you over the years, like many of you over the years, that I'm still the same person. And so I didn't tell anybody that I wasn't going to obey the law or ordinance or thing like that. I haven't even had that conversation with anybody. And so I would hope that you would kind of say, hey, would this guy sit there in line and say that he had conversations to have? I haven't talked to anybody. So the meetings that you're even referring to didn't even exist. But I appreciate that Alderwoman, that would be something that would disturb me. But I mean, I think that I show by my record that I'm interested in working with all of you. I still am, and I will continue to. So I mean, let's just dispel that very first of all. Okay. I think second, Alderman Muhammad, sir, the Director of Public Safety and I, not this draft, because I just got this draft Friday, but the first draft, we sat down with you in the Director of Public Safety's office for a considerable amount of time and talked about some concerns that we had. You were there, right?
I was there,
okay.
And
because you said in the beginning that we hadn't met you.
The concern was not Board Bill 107. You were talking to me about residency. I was meaning about Board Bill 107.
Weren't we also talking about the 9 districts?
You turned the conversation around, you and the Director of Public Safety.
We weren't talking about 9 districts?
You and the Director of Public Safety. Y'all said, you definitely said we can do 7 districks, so I guess you would agree with this Board Bill.
When did I say it?
But you also said, and the conversation shifted from police redistricting to residency. We need you to support residency, Alderman.
I guess all I'm saying is that we
never had a constructive conversation on the legality of this bill moving forward as we going transition.
I have not had a constructive conversation with
6 wards to 7
with the 7 because I just saw it Friday. Okay. We haven't had a constructive conversation about the revision. We had a constructive conversation about the first one, and what we were trying to talk about was the complications of going to 9 districts. I'm saying we sat down for a long time.
Let me ask a couple simple
questions. Sat down for 2 hours. We talked about the districts for about 10 minutes. Then we started talking about residency requirement.
Okay. Let me ask some simple questions.
Okay, can I do this, sir, if you don't mind?
Well,
because I came over here to talk about the concerns what I have with the bill as written. That's what I came over to share. I think that everybody's been talking about the bill as written.
We'll get to that. I get to ask the questions.
Okay.
And do you believe that things are better in the city today than they were even back under state control? Do you think crime has gone down and that things are better?
Well, I mean, sir, the numbers speak for themselves. That's a legitimate question based on data. So my first year as chief, I've been chief 2 years. My first year, we had a decrease in violent crime as well as homicides. The second year, it started creeping back up toward what it was in 2017. So no, we're not doing better as we speak. We've seen a little progress. So the answer to the question is,
so things that really bother me. We sat down, and this was a discussion that came up here months and months ago, and you said you need more time because of new computers and all this. We sat down and were able to get this information.
Yes, sir.
Within about a 4-hour period.
What you got, though, is a breakdown of cost for service. I'm talking about the analysis it takes to decide where the boundaries should be drawn. So those are 2 different things. And just in case we need that, I know that you all were not. I don't think that I articulated well the challenges that our current IT section have. Both of these are major IT undertakings. You know, the adding of the airport police as well as the districts are major IT undertakings. I did bring an IT director who can articulate that much better if there are questions about how long it takes. Yeah, this is just merely a breakdown of cost for service. This is readily available. What we're talking about is analysis of the cost for service to decide how the beat should be drawn. So that does take time.
Do you believe that the rank of major and again, I mean, you can take these papers and look at them, that was not there, that's way there now. Do you think that, and keeping in mind, we've even been sued because we took somebody from captain, made a major for a week. And
That didn't happen under my tenure, sir. So,
Well, I'm just saying, it's like a good old boys network of, so I'll just keep it real simple. Do you believe that eliminating the rank of major through attrition is going to hurt the department?
yes, it will.
Tell me why.
Okay, because
Why didn't it hurt it back then?
Okay, so, the chief, there was only one time, sir, there was only one time in the history of the department that we held on majors, and that was under Chief Isom, who is here. And what I would tell you is that, and we've talked about it, how did that happen? What did you think about it? What was your assessment of it? And what Chief Isom told me is that the reason why that happened is because he promoted several majors to lieutenant colonel. And he said that he was trying to evaluate whether or not the importance of adding some more majors or adding some lieutenant colonels was going on through his mind. That was only for under one chief. All the rest of the chiefs have always had at least one major to go in those command levels. So each bureau has always had a major. So Chief Isom is the first time that ever had happened, and his goal was to add more colonels. And so if your question is, do I believe the majors are valuable? They're absolutely very valuable. I have 3 in each patrol division. I have 1 helping with homicides. I don't think anybody would challenge that. And I have 1 that's working on our police reports and standards, our records. He's trying to update that. He happens to be an attorney. And so there's no waste in management with respect to the majors. And then I think that I hear another kind of fallacy that says that just merely taking away a couple of executive managers would add to manpower. I mean, even with their staffs, I mean, if some of them got 2 or 3 people working for them, we're already 138 officers short. So, I mean, in theory, what we would say, we would technically be 148 officers short if I actually did away with the attrition off the majors. That really, I don't know how that's going to have any impact on violent crime.
So if each one has 3 or 4, that's 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 more officers?
I said 3. Some of them, all of them don't have 3 or 4. Some of them have 3.
Even at 3.
Okay, well, that'll be 12 more officers on the street, sir, across the city.
I just know in business that we don't, when there's so many executives, we don't need them. We need the workers.
But I understand that, sir. But what you're saying is that if any time a division is short, you need to close down the division. I'm saying I can't because I don't have the officers to fill all the places. I can't do away with the bureaus. That's kind of what you're saying. The persons you're referring to are executive managers. I mean, you got to have people ask for oversight. They ask for. I mean, you got to run these places. And so, just because some of the districts are short doesn't mean that we have to cut down on captains and majors. The work of those bureaus still has to go on. So that's all I'm trying to say.
Well, and you got lieutenant colonels and you got competent people that can do it. Well, I'm going to move on and.
Well, I mean, can I? Would it be okay if I just go through? I mean, the bill has several things that I think that the committee would be interested in. I just want to go through them briefly. I don't think I need to bring up my IT person. I think you all will accept that this is just a breakdown of numbers. The analysis required to take on the airport and or add districts is very extensive, and I have my director of IT to prove that, but I think that you would accept my word for it. He's here in case, and certainly Chief Isom is here in case we talk about executive management. But what I would like to do is walk through the challenges that I have with the bill. I think I can do it pretty concisely, and then I'll answer any questions. So first of all, this might be Exhibit A, because as you saw, the Alderman just gave it to me, so I didn't get a chance to see anything. So even though this is a configuration based on cost for service, I have no idea whether or not it would make sense that it would get the desired result of reducing crime, simply because we don't know this is a boundary line. It doesn't mean that this is an examination of cost for service or types of cost for service. This may or may not be a good recommendation, but I will turn it over to our planning and technology.
This will give you 180 days to come back with a better plan. But we're not going to sit here.
You keep saying, sir, 180 days.
That's what
we don't have the IT resources to get it done in 180 days. Now, if you don't believe that, I can bring them up here. But I'm saying you're almost basically what you're saying is telling me to do something that's impossible. So you do have the numbers. You had Alderman. You do have the breakdown of cost for service. That's here. The analysis of these cost for service is not here. And I'm saying that's what the IT section does. They have a records management system that they're putting together. It is a federal mandated grant. We cannot tell the Bureau of Justice that we will think about getting around to the standardization of police report writing across this country. That is something that has to take priority, and I don't have, and that's just what you're saying is that we don't, what I hear you saying sometimes is that I don't care, do it anyway, and I'm saying that's really something that I'm not prepared to do. So this, I believe this is, Alderman, would this be Exhibit A, the district map?
You know, I'm going to, John.
This is my first time seeing it, but if this is it, I'm just asking, is this it? Because I never got Exhibit B either, which is the reorganization of the department. I asked for that. I didn't get that. So
I'm going to have Alderman Boyd take over as vice chair. He's going to take over chairing part of this because I'm very passionate about this bill, and I think maybe he'll do a better job.
well, sir, I would hope that you wouldn't. I mean, I listened to you for quite a considerable amount of time.
And I'll be able to, you're probably better off if I step
Okay.
aside and let him.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Alderman Boyd, I've asked for this, so the Alderman Muhammad just gave me this, so this is my first time looking at it, but I will turn it over to our Planning and Technology Division for evaluation. That being said, I never did get a copy of the reorganization of the department that was put forth supposedly in Exhibit B. Never seen that, so I don't even know what that looks like. couldn't have an opinion on it. Section 2 deals with police consolidation. This section calls for St. Louis Police Department and the St. Louis Lambert Airport Department to be merged within 180 days of the effective date. First and foremost, this will require the input from the Director of Public Safety. Additionally, when this was attempted several years ago, there were significant challenges, which included compensation, threat assessments, training, and recommendations for security improvement. I am not certain that the status of any of these issues. Additionally, the IT implications of a project of this magnitude will require significant study and planning. Currently, our IT section has significant priority projects ahead of this one, some of which are federally mandated by the Justice Department. The 180-day implementation demand is not feasible under the circumstances. I move to Section 3, Police Reorganization. This section calls for adding 2 bureaus, the Bureau of Administration and the Bureau of Transit Police. It further calls for the Bureau of Administration to be under the command of the Assistant Chief of Police and all other bureaus to be under the command of the Lieutenant Colonels, and the Bureau of the Transit Police to be under a captain from the Airport Police section. The need for these changes is not apparent based on the current bureaus in operation within the St. Louis Police Department, which we do have, which is the Bureau of Community Policing, the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement, the Bureau of Investigative Services, the Bureau of Auxiliary Service, the Bureau of Professional Standards. Historically, the Chief of Police has decided which bureaus are assigned to lieutenant colonels, and each administration is not, and every one of the administrations has not had a Chief of Police, so that would be something that is optional at times, but at the same time, the Chief has always decided which bureaus goes under which Chief, because our Assistant Chief, simply because different persons have different skill sets. Some of our commanders are very administrative inclined, not all of them are, and so it wouldn't make sense to pre-assign something to somebody that they weren't equipped to deal with. Additionally, we have had a major and a lieutenant colonel assigned to the airport in the past. I'm not sure the responsibility required are greater than what is normally expected of a captain. And so therefore, I would like an opportunity to study the responsibilities associated with this position to determine the appropriate rank for the position. This section further calls for the phasing out through attrition of the rank of major. Currently, there is a major in each patrol division, and there's 3, one in investigative services and one in the professional standards overseeing the updating of special orders, including placing them online, which is something that citizens have asked for, and keeping up with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies standards. All 5 are very vital to the operation of the department. If any were to separate from the department, I would automatically want to replace them as soon as possible. The department, for a brief period, and I mentioned this already, operated with 1 major, and the chief after the chief had promoted lieutenant colonels, I spoke with Chief Isom, and he advised me that he never officially eliminated the major's positions and would have preferred to add lieutenant colonels rather than promote anyone to major. He also believes that ideally he would utilize anywhere from 10 to 12 executive managers, meaning majors and lieutenant colonels. I wouldn't want to make any changes with respect to the reduction of major positions at a time when we are looking to expand districts and merge with the airport police. So I think that would be extremely reckless to start taking away executive management when the conversation is about adding the airport as well as another district. This section also calls for no involuntary transfers of those assigned to the Bureau of Transit Policing. If we merge into one, we would want to be able to transfer officers between the departments and assignments as necessary to fulfill staffing needs. So we wouldn't want any restrictions that would say if you used to be in the airport, you couldn't move into the city or vice versa. If it's all one agency, then we would want to be based on need to move people around. On pages 5, lines 4 and 5, this bill calls for captains, lieutenants, and sergeants to supplement uniform policing services in the Bureau of Transit Policing and the Bureau of Community Policing when staffing levels in those bureaus fall below the authorized staffing. Officers who attain ranks of supervisors and commanders will continue to supervise and command officers and not supplement uniform patrol. In other words, what that says to me is that that commanders or captains will start doing officer duties if they were short. That would be totally, against all the traditions that we've had, as well as policy that I assign a captain to do officer responsibilities, regardless of how some of the divisions may lose manpower. The divisions and the bureaus have to be intact for oversight. And so, just because a district is short doesn't mean that you say, okay, well, I'll start having lieutenants go answer radio calls. It doesn't work like that. But I think that seems to imply that. We do not do that now, and I'm against proposing that we would do that, in fact, if we merged with the airport police. The rest of page 5 talks about compensation. Again, like I say, I think that some of you have already mentioned some concerns that the previous attempt to merge the airport, the compensation issues, I don't know if I need to go into that. I do have our director of budget and finance here just in case, but there were some very complicated, insurmountable issues with respect to compensation that were not addressed the first time. And like I said, if you need to talk about that, I don't know that you do. He's here to be able to explain that to you. Section 4, police districts. This section calls for the police districts to be divided into 7. Again, I just got this, so we will take a look at this. I'm not seeing a map, and certainly our planning and technology division has not looked at this map to say that it makes sense based on calls for service. Any map that we produce would have to go through planning to see if the boundaries comport with data efficiency. And so this, I think that it's premature to say that because this is an equal distribution of calls for service that it would make sense based on manpower distribution. So I mean, the Alderman mentioned that he got it very quickly. Yeah, we can get this kind of stuff very quickly. This has not been analyzed, so this is just because it's got 7 pieces to it doesn't mean it's the best distribution of manpower that we could have, and that would have to come through analysis. This section also calls for separate district headquarters, which I noticed. Each district has not had its own headquarters since 1992. So I have no idea what the fiscal impact of adding buildings, but I don't see it as necessary. So we've operated without each district having a headquarters since 1992. So we did have 9 districts, but they operate out of 3 buildings. It hasn't been since 1992 that we talk about the old 6th, the old 7th, the old 4th, and the old 5th district. That's been almost 30 years ago. So we've operated without extra buildings for the past 30 years. Minimum, Section 5 talks about minimum staffing. This section calls for the districts to be apportioned equally with manpower. That is exactly what we did when we went to 6 districts. And so I think that is really the biggest fallacy with any proposed distribution of manpower. Many of you have districts that are way more demanding than the others. So it does not, I think Alderwoman Boyd said it best. It does not make sense to say that each one of you should have the same amount of officers if you have a whole lot more violent crime than other ones. That was a mistake to have done. And I see now, just because of the polarization, it will be hard to get out of that. That's something that was done. It should have never been done like that. And by the way, it was never like that before Chief Dotson split it up like that. District 7 always had more officers. You know how I know? Because when District 7 and 8 merged into District 5, I was so excited that I was going to add those number of officers and then cover the districts properly. So many of the times when you're making an assessment of how it used to be 15 years ago, all the districts did not have the same amount of manpower. That was something that was done. That was a mistake. And quite frankly, I would never recommend to do that again. That each district has the same amount of people. You do not have the same demands, so you do not need the same amount of people. This section calls for no plan. I think those are the concerns that I have. I went through the concerns I have. I wanted to come. Ready to see that coming on this. Yeah, I think I just want to close by saying this. I'm here to serve, and I think that I've exemplified myself as a public servant. I've never considered myself a person that was hard to get along with. Maybe somebody will say, oh, you're hard to get along with. But I guess my point is that I've been, for 33 years, I've served this agency. I've served many of you before I became chief. But because I'm chief, I have not become some kind of power-hungry person. I want your neighborhoods to be safer. We did have a year that was a setback last year. It was a lot of violent crime. I mean, you know, I just stopped to tell you just some of the challenges. I mean, hey, I don't know that you all knew that 48 of the homicides happened inside of buildings. There's no patrol plan that I could have that would address the amount of homicides that happen inside of buildings. You know, again, 50% of it is drug related. The people sit in cars and they wait, and I realize it's poverty related and that type of thing. But I think there's somebody mentioned earlier silver bullet. I think people believe that there's a silver bullet that if we just implement this one thing, it'll stop the number of homicides. You all know we have been 192 homicides average for the past 5 years. That should be baffling to us. Why can't St. Louis get out of that? Why is it always up? Not every year it's 200, but why is it around there all the time? What are we doing wrong as a city that allows that? And I would tell you, we can't. If we told you that we can stop homicides, I think we would be misleading the public. We can put people where they're most likely to, the neighborhoods that have showed a propensity about where violent crime happens. So what we can do is we can try to get officers. That's the whole rectangle concept. It's really simplistic. Where is most of your violent crime happening? What are the areas? What are the regions where what's driving your crime? Now, that's about as predictable as we can get. We know that Wells, Goodfellow, and Penrose are going to have struggles there. We know that automatically. But I'm saying, but what you can do is at least try to put your self-initiated activity over in areas where you know there's a lot of activity, some historic gang violence or what have you. But we cannot predict homicides, and so it's unfortunate if we go down or up. I think the thing is that we try to fight homicides every day, but at the end of the day, very challenging. 50% drug related, 35% personal disputes every day. And I can show you countless. You know our gun laws don't help, but I can show you countless video that we've seen that these starts out a fist fight. You can see bends over, falls down. You see a gun protruding, and all of a sudden he pulls out and starts shooting people. Those were fist fights that have graduated to gunfights when you have gun laws as lax as ours. So hey, I'm doing everything I can. I got the colonels I do have 35 years or more. So we got a lot of people that's been around here a long time working on it. But probably the biggest challenge, of course, is we just don't get a lot of witness participation. But when I say that, I think people mean that in general. Hey, starting with the person that it happened to. You know, many people, we have way more shootings where people were shot than we have actual homicides. Hey, the persons that are most deceptive on these investigations are the people that were shot. They don't want to talk about what was going on before that, and they're misleading. They're misleading about where it occurred and all kinds of things. But for shot spot, a lot of times we wouldn't even know where a lot of these shootings occurred. So I'm telling you, it's a hard work in progress. We're really going to work better. And somebody might say, well, what are you guys going to do different this year? And we're going to really work hard on enhancing what we did. We got some good things in place. When I say that I was saddened by the fact that we didn't go down again in homicides in the first rectangle, so we started we were down still 20 from the previous year. The first year we were down 23. The second year we were only down 20, so that's an increase of 2. But my point is that it's still down it was 20 less homicides in that region 2 years in a row. And I think that's something that shows some progress. 20 less homicides in the same region. We had 73 less robberies, 113 less aggravated assaults. I think that's something that I'm not going to say you can't celebrate it because it's still, the net gain citywide is still bad, but I'm saying when you put resources in certain areas, it seems to help, okay? But if you want to ask me some questions, I'll be glad to answer. But hey, I'm a public servant. I'm going to do what the law says. And I think that most of you know me well enough to know that I've been responsive to you. I've listened to you. I've come to meetings when your constituents have concerns, and I'm willing to help. I'm saying, but hey, you got to let us do our job when there's major projects that require analysis. I'm asking that you allow our technicians, our crime analysts to look at it instead of come up with other information from other agencies. You know, we do talk to the officers, and like I said, if this is not John Hayden forcing some information on my commanders, like I said, I got Jerry Layshock, all my colonels. They all put the input every day to help me. So it's not like there's some big distance between us.
Okay, you done?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Chief, I'm someone who have known you before you became the chief, you made a statement about you're the same guy. Well, let me assure you, you're not.
Okay.
You're not the John Hayden that I remember when you were over at North Patrol. You have changed. Maybe you haven't noticed that you've changed.
I haven't.
But you have changed. I'm not convinced that you even respect this body. And I'm going to suggest that not just because of a personal conversation and ugly exchange you and I have had on the phone, which I won't discuss, but I watched you interact with the alderman from the 21st Ward just during this hearing. And your tone is very hostile. Maybe it's your passion, but you're coming across very hostile, as if you're talking at us with a lecture.
I do apologize for that.
We resent that.
I apologize if my passion came off as disrespect. I apologize to this body right now.
Okay, let me ask you this. Talk to me about the morale of the St. Louis Police Department. How do you feel? What do you think about their morale right now? Is it high? Is it low? Is it about? What is it? What's the temperature of the police department?
Yes, sir. So the morale is an intangible, and ever since I've been on, people would say, "Hey, the morale is high, the morale is low." Hey, what I know is that I got a bunch of motivated officers who get a lot of violent criminals all the time, and so I would say that the arrests and the interest, and we get officers that are laying it all on the line every day, risking their lives, bringing in very violent criminals, and there seem to be no hesitation to go do that. That's in spite of what you might hear between our relationship between the department and the circuit attorney's office. The officers are motivated to get criminals off the street, and they do it every day. Put a lot of guns off the street, well over 2,500 guns seized this year, thousands of arrests. The officers are motivated to do their job daily. And I just think that's because it's a calling.
And I certainly want to make it clear, and I think not only speaking for myself, but for my colleagues, we respect and we appreciate our officers, and we feel the duty and the responsibility to ensure that they're protected, ensure that they have the right resources, and do whatever we can to ensure that they have the highest morale to deliver the best customer service to our constituents, because we all know that we have to work together. It can't be a us against them. And certainly, I'm hoping that we move on this continuum to the point where the constituents do feel like we're all working together, we're all on the same side, notwithstanding the issues that people have about not being good witnesses.
Yes, sir. And Alderman, if you don't mind, I apologize if my passion came off as disrespect. I guess I'm saying I started the conversation off by defending somebody saying that as I sat there, I didn't call up too much later, but I'm saying so for 10 minutes. People were discussing whether or not I said I wouldn't do something. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It kind of brought me up here in a messed up state.
I understand. So let me ask you a few questions. Let's go back to when this board bill was first introduced. It was introduced the 13th of September. I believe our first committee hearing early October. Alderman from the 21st. Would that be right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
13.
October 13th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that time, you did testify about technology, and there was a need to have more time. How much time have you spent since October the 13th on this issue, or your department?
Yeah, I have not. Our IT section has been inundated with previous projects, so I have not advised them to do anything different like that. But I think that the reason why I brought the IT director over here is so that maybe the board can understand better what I mean when I say the IT challenges.
Sure.
Just in case.
Right. But I want to kind of just point out, based on what you just said and why we're here today. So there was 3 months ago that we talked about this, and what you just said is you haven't had time to deal with it. So the question becomes, when do you think you will have time to deal with it? Because we're saying you get 180 days.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying, wait a minute. And you're saying that you're going to need more than 180 days. But if we give you 180 days today, that's 270 days total. So can you see why the board has a sense of urgency to say we need something concrete to kind of light a fire up under the police department and under your administration, because we don't feel like there's a sense of urgency? Do that? Can
Yes,
you
sir,
understand where we're coming from?
But I understand what you're saying. But I guess what I'm saying is that if they have a project that is more urgent and more federally mandated, the question is, so the real question is that should I if we have a federal mandate to be uniform crime reporting as consistent with the Department of Justice, should I interrupt that in order to work on the project of districts, redistricting?
No, I understand. But when we don't communicate, when there's a resolution that's put forth that says a report is due at a certain time and it's kind of perceived to be ignored, then.
And was that report due for me? I think it says a Director of Public Safety.
I believe you're right, it's Director of Public Safety, but you work with the Director of Public Safety. He has to get that information from you, right?
So all I'm saying is that I don't think that bill or the issue we're talking about has anything to do with me or a failure that I've done.
Okay, so you know what? That's fair. But you guys are on the same team, right? You and the public.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that I don't think that ordinance imposes anything on me,
Right.
and I don't think I failed to provide you anything that you asked for.
And I'm not trying to attack you. What I'm trying to do is point out how there's some inconsistencies in how we perceive you to be doing what we're asking you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's all about communication. It's all about how we communicate. So at this point, we don't know what a good start date would be for you to start doing this data collection. Would that be true?
I would like to defer to my director of.
Well, you can have that person come up if you like.
Thank you, Chief.
Go ahead and tell us who you are.
My
what
name
you
is
do.
Dele Oraduba, and I'm the. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dele Oraduba, and I'm in charge of the Police Department IT.
Okay. And so could you start doing this data collection tomorrow?
No, sir.
When?
Probably about the middle of 2021.
Wow. Why the middle of 2021?
Because until then, I have commitments that have been mandated by law and grants, federal government grants, Justice Department initiatives, and so on, that I have to meet. Those dates are immovable, and the same people who are working on those projects are the same ones who will work on redistricting or anything that may come out of this bill, including airport mergers, any of those things. I'm an IT person, I have to have data, I have to give you meaningful statistics, information, make sure the job is done well, and I can't do that half-heartedly if I don't have the staff to do it. I also can't bring up staff willy-nilly or train people off the street to do some of these things because there's a certain level of expertise that is required. I am also willing to go to delve into the weeds if questions arise, and I also brought with me members of my staff, senior staff, people, subject matter experts, who can also go ahead and give you information. I have Sherry Schaefer, who's the Applications Development Manager. I have Lester Washington, who is a senior member of my staff, and I have Regina Lee as well, who I think would cover all the bases if questions arise as to the nitty-gritty of why we cannot work on these projects. And it's not a question of being uncooperative, it's a question of commitments, jobs that we do, and things that we have to get done. And all of these things, by the way, relate to crime, essentially. Juvenile detention, records management, crime statistics, all of those things that the federal government has mandated every department within the country to do to make sure that there's some uniformity between how all of these things are being applied at the various levels of government.
Okay, and so you listed 3 other staff people besides yourself, so it's a total of 4 in your department?
No, that I brought with me.
Okay, how many
Yes,
people in your department?
About 34 that I have oversight over.
Okay, Chief, can we get, no, let me ask you, so how many deadlines do you have with these special projects?
I have a deadline for September 2020, and I have one for about May of 2021.
So you have 2 special projects that you're working on?
I have more than that, but you asked me what the deadlines were that I
Right.
have to meet.
Right.
The first one is this year, 2020, about September, and the other one, these are various phases of the different projects. I anticipate that I will be done, I am required to be done by about May of 2021.
So you have 2 special projects that have deadlines, and then you have other projects? I want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah,
How
there-
many deadlines total right now do you have to meet for all the projects in your queue?
2 major deadlines.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. One other question. I'm done, unless they want to call you back up. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chief, this is just a comment, then I'm going to go down the list with my colleagues. Someone who has served as a non-commissioned officer in the military, I would have to say that I'm on your side with majors. I do think that we should look closely in evaluating those major positions. Having the 3 patrols, north, south, and central, and 2 captains, and I think that it's important that we have a command person supervising that, but that's just Jeffrey Boyd, and I'm probably the only one on this board that understands paramilitary organization. So I would say we have some agreement with that aspect. But let me go down the line, but I'm going to go out of order because this is Alderman Muhammad's bill. So I'm going to take him, and then I'll go back in seniority. So Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to ordinance. It was ordinance number 222 as amended that was passed in January 5th, 2018, that was signed into law by the mayor. Section 3, public safety plan strategy. The public safety plan shall be a critical strategic analysis of the crime rates in the city, including but not limited to the categories of homicide, aggravated assault, rape, robbery, vehicle theft, burglary, reckless driving, human trafficking, related offenses, and crimes committed by juveniles. It should be the duty of the Director of Public Safety and the Commissioner of the Division of Police to utilize national crime prevention best practices in the creation of the plan. The completed plan shall recommend goals for strengthening public safety, improving community relations, and reducing the crime rate. We recommend the strategies, guidelines, and timeline for achieving such goals. So it specifically does list that the Commissioner of the Division of Police is responsible for presenting to the Public Safety Committee an annual plan as it relates to Board Bill 222 as amended, passed January 5th, 2018. So it's not only the duty of the Director of Public Safety, it's also a duty of the Commissioner of Police,
Does it say
which has not been done.
Does it say who should submit it, sir?
Excuse me?
Does it say who submits it? Who
It says it should be the duty.
of?
I just read it.
You're saying that it's the duty of the police chief to submit this report?
It's a combination of both. Based off the language that I'm looking at right now, I could forward it to your staff if you would like me to.
I can get a copy, sir. Thanks.
So now, when this was passed, you were the chief of police, right?
Yes.
So when this was passed, did you and your director of IT come to this committee or the public safety committee at that time and say, we will be unable to present this report based off IT malfunctions?
No.
So then what's the problem?
May I see that? I mean, of course, I can't look on your computer. It was brought to my attention after the fact that it was something that should have been submitted, but I was pretty sure that it read that it was something that was a responsibility of the Director of Public Safety. That being said, I don't know when he promised that he'd give it to you.
Why can't, this is really simple. Why can't we not utilize the crime data that we have to effectively reconfigure the police department? Now, you said that you know the district organization that I presented to you in Board Bill 107, it will not work.
No, I didn't say it wouldn't work. I said I don't know if it'll work.
Okay, we don't know if it will work.
Right.
But we know for sure the current plan does not work, right?
Well, we know for sure that the current plan did not take into consideration calls for service, or types of calls for service. We know that the current plan equally distributes manpower across the districts, which I'm saying is fundamentally flawed from the beginning. So if this plan, regardless of the lines, if it talks about putting the same number of officers in each district, is not going to make a lot of logical sense based on the demands of the district, because they won't be the same. So if I just said let's just use a round number of 100. If I said that districts 1 and 6 get 100 officers, regardless of the amount of crime that happens in 6, that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And nor would I recommend that, because I want to be able to address the crime. And so why would a district that has half the calls for service, why would I put the same number of officers as one that had double that? It's kind of like when we talk about the volume of calls for service in the patrol division. I mean, they're higher in some places, considerably higher. So why would I make a recommendation that said each district has the same number of officers? And again, that's exactly what happened. It was never like that before Chief Dotson changed it.
Are we failing in reducing crime?
We have, certainly when it comes to homicide, sir, we have not broken the cycle of homicides that occur in our city annually. I mentioned before that we have averaged 192 homicides for the past 5 years. I've only been chief for 2. I have been unable to break that cycle.
Are we failing in reducing crime?
Overall crime, that's not necessarily the case.
Yes or no?
Well, it's not a yes or no. It's not a yes or no question, because you have to talk about violent crime or not. So last year, my first year, we had a reduction in violent crime. This year, we had a whole lot more aggravated assault with firearms, and we did not have a reduction in violent crime. But it wasn't as bad as it was when I first came. But it was not as successful as it was the year 1.
Okay, so the answer is no. The answer is no. We are failing in reducing crime. If we ask residents throughout our wards, they will say yes.
You don't have to ask residents, sir. You just have to look at the statistics. The statistics speak for themselves.
We're failing. I mean, now we can play with the numbers. We can play with these numbers all day. I'm looking at them now. We can play with them. The fact is, our crime rate is still high. We continue to be among one of the highest cities in violent crime and crimes by persons and property.
That is correct.
We are failing in reducing crime. The answer is yes, we're failing. We can play with the numbers. We can
say I guess I'm saying
increase by 13%, 12% here and there.
But Alderman, what I'm saying is that we had success year 1. We crept back up. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that we had a reduction in violent crime year 1. We didn't in year 2. I mean, I think the numbers support that.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Chief, I support police, and I would hope that you know that. I support police. My intent in this board bill is to reorganize our department. There is no plan to fight crime, and I'm not saying that the reorganization of the department is going to fight crime. But if we don't start now to put more officers on the street, then we're going to continue to fail. We're going to continue to see a high number of fatalities, homicides, and continuous crime. We don't have enough officers on the streets. Right now, we have 138 vacancies in the police department.
That is correct, sir.
Where are those vacancies being carried out at?
Throughout the department. Vast majority on the street, but throughout the department.
A vast majority on the street.
That's correct.
So we down 150, 130?
138.
We're down 138 officers, and most of those vacancies affect the patrol districts that's responsible for community policing.
That is correct.
Why?
Because that's the most number of persons that we are short. I mean, I guess the question is, why are there vacancies, or why is it vacancy there? The vacancies is at the patrolman level is where we have the most.
How many officers do we have in the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to look at this chart here, so I'd have to see it. Officers assigned to the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement. Let's see. Yeah, a total of. If I'm reading this correctly, sir, there's a total of 137 assigned, and we're short 14.
There's 137 officers assigned to the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement. We are short.
Yes, sir, which includes special ops, mobile reserve, SWAT, canine, traffic safety, aviation, park rangers, public transportation grant. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Give me a walkthrough of what a officer in the Bureau of Special Law Enforcement does on a day-to-day basis. Do they sit in district headquarters and wait for a bomb threat, or
No, sir.
What do they do?
So depending on what unit they're in, if they're traffic safety, they'll get assigned some traffic locations to enforce traffic. SWAT team will do they'll either warrant patrol or be doing search warrants. Our K-9 division, of course, is very limited, but our special ops investigators, they'll go to designated areas for directed patrol to enforce violent crime. A lot of our recovery of stolen cars, carjacked cars, comes out of special ops. So they have different responsibilities based on their assignment, and most of them are on directed patrol as opposed to answering radio calls.
Can you give me the different divisions that's in the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement? Because we're down department-wide. Majority is affecting the districts, affecting the wards in the city because we don't have enough patrolmen. We're down 138 officers, right?
Yes, we're down 138 officers.
We have 137 officers assigned to the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement.
Right. So I guess all I'm saying is, that if you take them away, then you lose the carjacking details and all those kind of things that are really keeping the lid on things. And so there's a trade-off, but I'm saying I think that the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement makes the most arrests, recovers the most cars and guns and narcotics. That the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement does the lion's share of the heavy lifting on the department. So as far as getting a lot of the violent criminals, the Bureau of Special Enforcement is accomplishing that.
Then what is the job of the Bureau of Community Policing?
Community policing is primarily.
They sound similar to me from what you just said.
Yes, sir. The real distinction is directed patrol versus calls dictated by calls for service. So the community policing are pretty much the ones handling the accidents and other radio assignments, disturbances, what have you. And the specialized enforcement can focus on certain things so that we can make some headway with violent crime.
Does the Bureau of Specialized Enforcement need 137 officers?
Well, they're actually short 100. They're actually short 14. I would say that they are that there's no waste there. I would say that they are all operating, firing all cylinders. The people that you have assigned to those units are making good progress. Their time there is well worth it. I think that's well established. Like I said, they get a whole lot. They recover a lot of guns, a lot of carjacked cars, a lot of stolen cars, a lot of narcotics. Do a lot of search warrants. I mean, I think that it goes without saying that specialized enforcement is really saving the day in many instances.
No further questions at the time, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Howard.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Chief. My question goes back to the data gathering. How do you deploy your forces if getting data is so difficult?
Yes, ma'am. It's actually not difficult, ma'am. I think the key is that what I've failed to articulate well is the whole issue of what's required in order before you set up these, like for example, when you set up districts. It's very data specific, and so it's easy to get how many calls for service happen. The number of calls for service is an easy get. The decision as to how lines should be drawn based on call for service, the types of call for service is a project.
So when you're gathering this data, I imagine that, I'm just saying that the data is sorted into severity of crime, location, time, all of that.
Yes, ma'am. It had. But the first time, I would say that was limited. It was limited. We went to 6 districts. There was limited concern about types of calls for service.
Okay.
Limited, and I certainly want to take that into consideration next time around.
So it doesn't tell you what time these crimes are happening, or
it tells you time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the key is that if 67% of certain types of crime happen in certain areas, my point would be is that it's lopsided. In other words, what happened the first time is that it was merely a breakdown of calls for service, and district lines were drawn based on that. There were not taken into a lot of consideration about how long people will be out handling shootings and robberies and things like that, which are a lot more labor intensive. And I think that you need to take those types of consideration in order to have the proper coverage.
But I guess, the thing is that having come from another large organization, education, you're closing a school and you're redeploying people. I mean, it doesn't seem like it should take forever when you have a computer there. I mean, it's not like we're sorting raw paper. I don't understand that, this would be that difficult of a task. I mean, it's an ongoing reporting. It's not like these reports that are required are just coming up out of the blue. I'm not sure, but I expect that there's certain data that's reported in a timely fashion to federal, state,
Yes,
authorities on a regular basis. So, I mean, those are scheduled and those are expected, and why couldn't the other data and information that we've asked for come forward and be presented to this organization so we could make it an educated decision, or we could work with you on making these decisions?
Yes, ma'am.
The city's burning and we can't get data?
Right.
I find that just unfathomable, even though I support the police 100%, but we can't keep going on like this and not looking at what's going on and making some decisions to cut crime and reduce the violence that's going on in our city.
So raw data is available pretty much very quickly.
Okay.
Okay, well, but I want to take this. I want to say, and I'm looking for some head nods. I think that before we went from 9 to 6 districts, that was at least 6 months of data collection. At least 6 months of data collection before they actually changed the boundaries from 9 to 6. So all I'm saying is that obviously we all have a lot of concerns about that decision, but at the same time, if we're going to get it right, they need time to crunch those numbers.
But I'm just saying 2 years from now, I'm sorry. It doesn't help what's going on now. So either we cooperate with one another and we get something that we can agree on, or, we take this up and we have it done to you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I was in on the meeting that asked for the data, that had asked for it before, and it's just, to me, it seems like there should be something forthcoming.
Yes, ma'am. There's also a presumption, as I think Alderwoman Boyd might have mentioned, or there's also a presumption that even when we go to a different district configuration, that will automatically make crime go down. I mean, especially with the same number of people. Only thing this would do right now is spread. If we use a peanut butter analysis, this will spread peanut butter more thinly. You need thicker peanut butter all across the bread, and that's only going to come when we get more officers. Spreading these same folks around a little bit here or there.
In the meantime, if we have people sitting in the stations and we are putting officers out, new officers, which we have a lot of, that are in cars by themselves and we don't have proper training for them, I don't think that's a good model either.
Yes, ma'am, and we do train them properly.
I'm not saying they're not trained properly, but they're new and it takes time to learn.
Absolutely.
It's just, we need boots on the ground. We need people out on the street. Helping these youngsters to learn how the job goes. And having a top-heavy department doesn't help us.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Thank you.
Alderwoman. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't know where to begin. You come from academia like I came from academia. We very educated. I have a master's degree. I think you have that and some.
Yes.
You know that this is not acceptable. This whole IT situation, I mean, to say that it takes 18 months, that's unheard of. That's unreal. You can take a stats class and you can learn all this stuff. In the real world, if you were an employer and someone told you that it's going to take 2 years to get some data so we can reorganize and adjust, you would be fired. That's not acceptable. All 34 people will be gone. So I have a problem with that, and you know, we hear this stuff about these numbers all the time, and you know, I really despise when people stand up and they say, oh, well, we're down such and such a numbers this year. I mean, I had like 4 murders take place in my ward. I went and talked to my captain, and she pulled out this stat book, and she said, well, we're 2 or 3 down from last time. That's not acceptable.
I agree.
We know that you all don't have a magic bullet to make everything happen, but you have to take a page out of certain cities who have been successful in reducing their crime. We know that, okay, these crimes are happening in buildings. Okay, well, maybe if there wouldn't be a saturation of drugs in the neighborhood, then the crime wouldn't have happened in the building. So I'm hearing a lot of excuses, in my opinion. I feel like the data, we should be able to get it. I feel like we've expressed these concerns, and then now, if it was me, if I was chief, and I know that this thing will probably be coming, I would be reorganizing a little bit already. Look, let's start trying to move in that direction. It hasn't came yet, but we got to start doing something, or at least when we come in front of them, we can say that we've been doing a little bit something, trying to work on this, because we know it's coming. But to have someone stand and look me in my face and say that, oh, we can't do this, we got to do this for the UCR, we all aren't up here blind. I know how law enforcement works to a certain degree. I mean, it's not like you got to create a spaceship to give to the FBI. The report should be populating data already. So that boogeyman that's being put out there, that we have so many obligations that we can't work on this, is unacceptable.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. It's just unacceptable, and it's almost insulting to have someone stand before us and say that. And if in fact we are that antiquated as a department, and I don't feel that we are, then when it comes budget time, you all need to be making some mighty decisions to revamp IT, because that's unacceptable. I'm sorry. And you know, it's like this thing, it happened. Dotson, he made the decision real quick, and it happened. What was that time frame? Because we adjusted. Whatever,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
he did what he did, we adjusted
Yes,
very
ma'am.
quickly.
I think that project was a minimum of 6 months long.
Okay, so if you had started working on this when we first talked about it, we'd probably be up and running in 3 months, right? Is that what you're saying?
And I think what I was trying to say for the past couple of months is that I can't put this project in front of the federally mandated project that we already have. I think that's what my plea is.
You're suggesting that, okay, you guys, if you push this, then we're not going to be in compliance with the feds or whoever. No, well, then you need to shift some stuff around. You need to adjust. Of course, it's a specialized thing, but you need to probably create a contract to have somebody else with the skill set to do it come in and do it if we aren't qualified to do it, because it's just literally unacceptable. And another thing that I have a problem with, and this is very telling to me, when I heard you say that, oh, well, if people are at this rank or in this unit, you know, that wouldn't be fair to have them come down and do this. No, see, when the house is in trouble, everybody got to do what's for the greater good of the house so it can maintain itself. I wouldn't care what rank you are. If we need you over here, you need to go over there and do that work. So that's a problem. I mean, it's not like you're going to change their pay, but when you're trying to reduce crime, when you're trying to fill a void, fill a need, every hand should be on deck to address the problem. And if you got officers in your department who feel they're too good to take a call, that's a problem. And I get the position that you are in. You are in a position where you will be less than a leader to get up here and say that you don't need everybody that you have and everybody's job isn't important and all of that. You're going to always justify where you need people at in these units. But as the chief, that's where leadership kicks in. You have to make those decisions that may not be favorable among some people, but you know, to address the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
When you don't do that, you're doing a disservice to the city. You know, we can't keep saying, you know, there's no magic bullet. We know there's not, but you got to do the best that you can, and it doesn't appear that we're doing the best that we can. We can just see how things are organized. We're not doing the best that we can. You know, and that's why this whole notion about residency, okay, get rid of residency. And because nobody's monitoring anyway, just so we know. Officers are living outside the city anyway already. But, so when you do that, we still gonna have some of these same problems. Because we have some organizational problems. We do. And I know all officers aren't bad, but it speaks volumes when, like my colleague said, an event happens and you see 50 officers. But you don't see 50 cars roaming around in particular areas, but everybody, they camera chasing, everybody want to be seen. Okay, we need to have those officers on the street. I believe that police presence deters crime in most situations. You have to be an idiot to do something right in front of a cop. So it's unfortunate. And, we all are frustrated, and I do accept your apology. I understand it when you came right up, to listen to somebody demonize you and say you said something you say you didn't say, and I believe you didn't say it, because I don't think because clearly if you said it, some people were around you, and then so I get that, but we just have to do a better job.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Period.
And we're going to continue to work hard.
That's all I have.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you come up and close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I talked to the association, they would like to come up and talk, but I know they're in favor of this. I know that this could go on all day and debated. To be honest with you, we've talked and we're all frustrated. There's no sense, we can discuss this in the future, but it's my opinion that we've heard enough. I've pretty much polled the board. John, I'd like to have you come up and close. John, if you can go up front. And I'm also stalling a minute until Jeffrey comes back. But if you can go up and close on your bill, committee substitute. Chief, thank you so much, and I'm sorry if I get over passionate. He's just going. So John, just if you can give us just a close on this bill, and the acting chairman's back now, but John, I would recognize you to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think any other comments need to be made today. Again, it's evident we need to change the structural disorganization of our police department. And we have to come up with a real public safety plan to combat violent crime in our city. I heard someone say, someone told me that crime is more organized than our city's crime fighting. Well, we have to stop that, and I believe this board bill puts us in the right direction to make that happen. I have no further comments, Mr. Chair or Mr. Acting Chair. I would ask for the passage of Board Bill 107, Committee Substitute.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard? Aye. Alderman Arnowitz?
He had an emergency.
Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard?
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro?
Aye.
Alderman Arnowitz, you have 7 aye votes.
But you can do that. Pam, I want to recognize you on yours. Okay. I need you up there. And yours is yours. Yours is that's a resolution. Who's on? Pam's is a resolution. That's a board. We passed. We didn't. We passed.
She's a discussion.
She had
The discussion.
She wants to bring something to this one, so she holds it. So Christine has to hold her bill, and Pam's is by resolution. And so the process on the resolution. Yeah, it's this thing here. And Christine has to hold her bill.
Okay. Alderwoman Boyd, you're recognized for a presentation on progress funds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the committee.
107.
I'm coming before you because I am asking for dollars to support this program, because it's real apparent to me that we have to be proactive in regards to the crime within our community. And we're trying to get before this. Everybody has a copy of the resolution. It's through the Missouri Faith Leadership Council, and we're asking for $200,000 to be given to St. Louis University because they will be the admin piece on this project. And we have to start working within our schools to start decreasing the crime to keep it from getting out into the community.
Okay, Alderman Vaccaro.
I just would like to comment on this. So on the Prop S money, we every year are tasked, this group is tasked with giving out $1 million to different groups. What we're proposing, because this came up as an emergency, if we put up $200,000 and the governor already sent a letter and he's going to put it in the State of the Union tonight, the state will give us $400,000 and the county will give us $100,000. And this will go to help with kids before violence breaks out, trying to be a little bit more proactive. I apologize to Alderman Boyd because technically I shouldn't be doing this without him because he's the chairman of the group that's going to decide how this money's broke out. But what I'm asking is to take the $800,000 and keep that under Jeffrey's subcommittee, and I promise I won't interfere again, but to take this out, $200,000 out of that, where it's going is very proper. I think I'll have Alderwoman Boyd, but I did want to explain that Jeffrey is the chairman of the committee where this money goes, and I don't like doing things without his permission. We did talk, but what I'm asking is that we take $200,000 of this money and move it so that we can get $500,000. And then I'll step aside and let Alderwoman Boyd explain what the program does. But I just wanted to explain that this really was not 100% appropriate on my part, that you are the chair and I recognize you as the chair of that committee. I just ask that you would consider doing this.
Alderman Boyd, do you have an actual proposal?
Yes, it's in front of you. It says Missouri Youth Crime Prevention Initiative.
Gotcha. Okay. So, go ahead. You want to speak more about it?
Yes, what the Missouri Faith Leadership Council did was they hired a contractor to be overseeing the sites. What we're looking in the future is to go with 12 sites. We're going to kick off with 4 sites, and we'll do 2 elementary schools and 2 high schools. And in the high schools, we will run from 5 p.m. to 11 o'clock at night. And then with the elementary school, we'll be open till 9 o'clock at night. And we feel from previous programs that it reduces the crime within those communities, because then we having people that are coming off the street that would normally be on the street causing havoc within our communities. And as a lot of you all know, that we have the young people that are doing the robbing and the carjacking. And so we're giving them activities to help. We're looking to bring in the PALS program with the boxing and the basketball. We're looking to bring in social services, mental health, the clinics, the federal clinics. We're looking at them partner with us to make sure that youth have their shots, make sure that they're being checked, to make sure they're healthy. And so it's a wraparound program. So it's not just focusing on crime, but we know a lot of those things impact our communities in regards to the crime.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the subcommittee, which you're a member of the subcommittee, and we'll have even more discussion about it. Matter of fact, just a brief update. I met with United Way yesterday to kind of go over the rankings of the proposals that were submitted. There were about 61 proposals, and so I'll be contacting all the members of the subcommittee to have a meeting next week to start the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Are we able to break out that 200 by finance? I'd like to do that today.
Oh, you want to vote from the committee to do that?
Yeah, I would like to break that 200,000 out today. Because we're really going outside. Let me talk in the mic. I would really like to So we're going over some legal stuff.
We're going to go ahead and do it that way. The Public Safety Committee is adjourned.